You know, at the Australian Open, the biggest drama isn't always some blistering forehand down the line. Sometimes it's the blistering sun itself. So today, let's break down one incredible day where a defending champion was pushed to his absolute limit, not just by his opponent, but by a brutal heat wave that brought the entire tournament to a screeching halt.
It's not every day you hear a defending champion, a top player, just flat out admit they got lucky. But that's exactly what Jannik Sinner said after a truly grueling third-round match. And that one quote, well, it tells you everything you need to know about the incredible story of how a safety rule, not a player, ended up calling the shots at a Grand Slam.
So let's set the scene. What were the conditions that led to all this drama? We're on day 7 of the tournament, and Melbourne is just baking in a dangerous heat wave. This wasn't just a warm day for tennis, okay? For the players out on that court, this was a test of pure survival. The forecast was predicting a high of 40 degrees Celsius. That's a scorching 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, at that level, the heat isn't just an obstacle for these elite athletes. It's a serious health risk. It basically turns the court into an oven.
And look, tournament officials, they knew this was coming. They took precautions. They started rescheduling matches to try and avoid the absolute worst of the heat. They even opened the gates an hour early. Everyone was just bracing for a day where the weather, not the players, was going to be the main event.
And right at the center of this storm, this heat storm, was the defending champion Jannik Sinner. He was walking out for what on paper should have been a pretty routine third-round match. But under that intense sun, it turned into anything but.
Sinner was up against the American Elliot Spizzirri, a talented player for sure, but much lower ranked. This was supposed to be Sinner's match to lose. But the extreme heat, well, that's the great equalizer, isn't it? And Spizzirri was just handling it way better. You could feel a major upset brewing. And then the situation just became dire. Sinner was down a break in the third set, and he was suffering from full-body cramps, which, for a tennis player, is just about the worst thing that can happen. Commentators were actually describing him as looking zombie-like. He was literally just minutes away from being knocked out of the tournament. And then, at the absolute peak of this crisis for the champion, something happened that had nothing to do with tennis. An external factor, a rule buried in a binder somewhere, stepped in and completely changed the entire course of the match. Now, the decision to stop play wasn't based on some guy just looking at a thermometer. The tournament uses this really sophisticated thing called the heat stress index. It's a scale that measures not just the air temperature, but the radiant heat coming off the court, the humidity, even the wind speed, all to get a true sense of what it actually feels like for the players. And right at that moment, the index hit level 5, the absolute maximum.
So what happens when that level 5 alarm goes off? Well, there's a really clear procedure. Play is immediately suspended on all the exposed outdoor courts. And on the main arenas, like Rod Laver where Sinner was playing, they start closing the massive retractable roofs.
And the timing of this? Oh, it was everything. Just like commentator Todd Woodbridge said, if that stoppage had come just 15 minutes later, the match probably would have been over. For Sinner, this intervention wasn't just helpful, it was perfectly, and you have to say fortunately timed.
So what happens when they finally resume play? Well, this absolute gift of a break for Sinner led to a dramatic turnaround, but it also kicked up a little bit of controversy about how he got the win.
The break to close the roof? It only took 8 minutes. But that was all Sinner needed. He came back out onto a court that was now shielded from the direct sun, his body had a moment to recover from the worst of the cramps, and boom, he immediately broke Spizzirri's serve. The momentum shifted in an instant, and he went on to win the whole thing in 4 sets. But the controversy didn't stop there. To get every extra second of recovery he could, Sinner started using the full 25-second serve clock before every single point. And this sparked a debate right there on the commentary box. Was he just using the rules to his advantage, or was it a form of gamesmanship? It really just highlights that fuzzy line between strategy and sportsmanship. Now, Sinner's match was obviously the most dramatic story of the day. But the heat wave didn't just affect one court. It threw the entire tournament into total chaos.
I mean, just to put the day in perspective for you, at 2:30 in the afternoon, all play on the outside courts just stopped. It didn't start up again until around 6 p.m. That's a delay of over 3 hours, messing up dozens of other matches and throwing the tournament schedule completely out of whack.
So what do we take away from this wild, chaotic, and dramatic day? Really, the whole thing forced a huge conversation about where player safety, competitive fairness, and the future of outdoor sports all crash into each other in our changing climate. When you boil it all down, the story of Day 7 wasn't just about forehands and backhands.
It was about how a rule, a simple rule designed to protect athletes from harm, became, in this one instance, the most important player on the court. It delivered a decisive, match-altering play at the absolute perfect moment.
And all of this leaves us with a really critical question for the future. Jannik Sinner got lucky, sure. But as extreme weather events like this become more and more common, how are sports like tennis going to adapt? How do you create rules that protect the players without unfairly deciding who wins and who loses? It's a huge challenge, and it's one that all sports are going to have to face.